2017 Chevy Silverado 1500. Gonna do rear brake pads and rotors. What you need to do is jack it up and support it. Remove your rear tires. Those are 7/8 for the lug nut. And then you need to remove your caliper first. It has two caliper retaining bolts. One here and one right here. These are 13 millimeter. You need to remove those. And if the slide spins when you're loosening it, then you get a 20 millimeter wrench and put it on the slide and hold that. After you get those two bolts out, you need to remove your caliper. Get a flat blade screwdriver, stick it in there like that a little bit. Pry the caliper off. Use your other hand to hold on to the caliper so it doesn't flop around. Now we have the caliper off. What you want to do is inspect your caliper boot. Make sure it's not torn or leaking fluid around it. It looks pretty good. So what you need to do is get yourself a wire brush and brush the caliper. Clean it up the best you can. And then you can go ahead and push the piston back in with an old pad and a C-clamp. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But when you're pushing the caliper back in, make sure your line is not pinched in any way to restrict the return of the fluid. Sometimes you can go ahead and loosen the bleeder and pinch off the line and push the piston in, and that will get the old fluid out of the caliper. You can do it that way also. Alright, got the C-clamp with an old pad, and I push the piston in. Next you want to do is remove your caliper bracket so you can clean that up. And then it has two 18 millimeter head bolts on the back side. Now what you want to do is remove the pads and remove the hardware, the bundle clips. Clean that surface up inside there and paint it. Let it dry so you can put your new clips on there. Be nice and clean for it. Also your caliper slide pins need to be loose. And you take them out, clean them up, and rub some new Sil Glide or brake lube on them and put them back in. Then you need to do is remove your rotor. It has parking brake shoes underneath it. Sometimes the rotor will get stuck on the ridge of the parking brake shoes. And sometimes the rotor will get stuck on the axle, and you have to hit it with a hammer to break it loose. I got lucky mine came off. It's been off before. So now what we need to do is inspect our parking brake shoes and make sure they're in decent shape, not separated from the metal on the backing. Looks pretty good. So now I can go ahead and clean up my bracket. Put a little bit of anti-seize on my axle. Make sure your axles are nice and clean. Make sure there's no rust, because rust creates high spots, and you don't want any high spots because that'll make your rotor wobble, and then it'll give you a brake pulsation through your pedal, and you don't want that. All right. See all that rust in there? When it rusts, it expands, and when it expands, it pinches the pads and doesn't allow the pads to move back and forth into this bracket, and it will cause abnormal brake wear. So you need to remove that rust inside there and put some paint on it, and also remove your caliper slide pins and put some lube on them. The brackets are cleaned up and painted. While that's drying, take my slide pins out, clean them up, put some fresh Sil Glide on them, brake lube. Put them in there, twist them around, work it in there back and forth. Do not pack this with Sil Glide. You won't be able to push them in all the way. And that's one thing you have to be able to do, is be able to push them in all the way. And make sure you get some Sil Glide on those boots. And that'll help keep the elements out. All right, so now that's drying. And when that's done and dried, then you can go ahead and put your Abundant Clip hardware on there. And also go ahead and put some fine film of anti-seize on your axle. And then we can put our rotors on. And when you do your rotors, make sure you clean the shipping oil off of them with some rag, with some brake clean or some glass cleaner, soap and water. Rotor is on. Fine film anti-seize underneath. Caliper bracket. Got your hardware in there. Make sure you're all sitting there nice and pretty. Put the caliper bracket bolts on, snug them up, torque them to 75 foot-pounds. Get your pads ready. If you have one with a squeaker on it, that will go on the inside towards the rotation of the rotor. So it'll be on the inside up. So you put these in here like that, get them in there, push them in. Just like little springies in there. You might have to get a light and push them in there. All right, so now I got them in. Now you need to do is squeeze them together and get your caliper and put the caliper on while you're squeezing these together. Otherwise you won't be able to get the caliper on. And then watch out for these, make sure these are pushed in also. Calipers are on. Got my bolts started, snug them up. And then you need to torque them to 38 foot-pounds. And make sure that your brake hose is not twisted. All right. So now this side is done. You can go to the other side, do it the exact same way. And then when you're done with both sides, you can put your tires back on, torque the lug nuts to 140 foot-pounds, lower the vehicle down to the ground, go inside the cab, start it up, push the pedal a couple times and make sure you got a decent pedal. If you don't have a decent pedal and it still goes to the floor, then you need to re-inspect what's going on. But if you have a good pedal, then you're all set to go, because you need to have brakes when you put in drive or reverse. If you don't have a good pedal, you're going to have an accident. So, all right, and then you can go ahead and check your brake fluid, top it off as needed. And that's how you do your rear brakes. Hopefully I helped you out. Hopefully you can help me out by subscribing, and I appreciate it. And these are Detroit axle, and they're decent. Okay. All right, good luck.